What's going on, X-Men fans? It's me, the X-Men guy, and you have read the title. Today, we are talking about Immortal X-Men number 1 through 10, written by Kieran Gillen. Now, if you've seen my top 10 comics of the year video, you know I like Kieran Gillen in all of his books. I just think he's a great writer, and without further ado, let's get into it. So we start here with Immortal X-Men number 1. Now, I do have to mention, it was written by Kieran Gillen. It was drawn by Lucas Wernick. The color artist is David Curiel. I'm gonna butcher a lot of these names, so bear with me. VC's Clayton Cowles, Tom Mueller with the design, and as the artist, the cover artist, it's Mark Brooks. So let's just get to the point. This is one of the best X comics, if not comics, of the last year, and maybe of the last few years. You see, this comic focuses on the Quiet Council of Krakoa, dealing with a lot of issues that, a government would deal with. And if you're new to X comics and you don't know what the Quiet Council of Krakoa is, it's basically the group of leaders that rule Krakoa. And each issue of the series is based off of one member of the Quiet Council, this issue being based off of Mr. Sinister. Now we begin the issue in Paris 1919 with Mr. Sinister reading a newspaper, and a woman comes up to him. Now, mind you, this is not the Mr. Sinister we know yet. This is actually Nathaniel Essex, who later injects himself with the X gene of Firebird, or no, not Firebird, sorry, I forget his name. Post-editing me should have the name somewhere over here, but yeah. So he injects that mutant's genes into him, and he becomes superpowered. But anyway, this is before he gets the superpowers, and a woman approaches him as he's reading the newspaper. Now, this woman ends up being Destiny. Now, Destiny is basically just, you don't really have to worry about it yet, but she's basically a mutant, can see into the future. We'll explain later down the road. And she basically is just talking with him for a little bit, and eventually she whispers something in his ear, and this makes his eyes go white. He's just like, oh, and he collapses to the ground. His eyes turn red. A diamond shows up on his forehead. He starts choking. I should have a picture up here if I can get one, but yeah, it's really graphic, and he starts saying, "You're a ghost, you're a ghost, you're a ghost." Now, we see this later in the series, and since this is as of recording this, we're not going to be talking about Sins of Sinister because I haven't read it yet. We don't really know what this means. So then Mystique comes behind Destiny, and she's basically like, "Let's go," and stuff, and then we flash forward to present day. Now, in present day, Mr. Sinister is in his laboratory with his Mr. Sinister mixed with Cyclops Rat and his Mr. Sinister Turtle, and many more. And what we get revealed here is very important to Krakoa and for the mutants and X-Men, the X-Lines, all as a whole. So Mr. Sinister has been basically recording data of everything that he does each day. And if he dies, he has a cloned Moira McTaggart, who, if you don't know, you may be like, Moira McTaggart, there's nothing special about her. Recently, she was just revealed to have a power that whenever she dies, resets the timeline. So he cloned Moira McTaggart a bunch of times. If he died right before he's about to die, shoots her, restarts the timeline, but all of those saved data that he's been putting in each day goes back to his older self so that he's able to avoid that death. So I hope that makes sense. But then we go to Magneto basically resigning from the Quiet Council. And this is important because there were 3 main founders of Krakoa. It was Mr. Sinister, Magneto, and Charles Xavier. Also, Moira McTaggart. I had to add her in there. Moira McTaggart joined Orcus, who are the mutants' enemies. Magneto leaves Krakoa to go onto Arakko. Mr. Sinister isn't fully trustworthy, and that leaves Charles by himself. So they're rushing to basically get like a replacement on the Quiet Council for Magneto, and the candidates are Angel, Monet, aka Penance, Gorgon, there's Vulcan, Abigail Brand, who's later revealed to be working with Orcus, so glad they didn't pick her, and Hank McCoy, aka Beast. And who they eventually end up choosing is actually Hope Summers, the member of the 5 who, if you don't know who the 5 are, they are able to resurrect mutants. And basically, Selene, who's a witch girl kind of mutant, is angry that this happened. She wanted to be chosen. So she unleashes a kaiju on, the Quiet Council. And if you don't know, the X-Men comics are kind of obsessed with kaijus during the Krakoa era. They've been in Judgment Day, a lot of other stuff, X-Men 1, Trial of Magneto. They're obsessed with kaijus now, which is kind of weird, but... And then we see this page. So the X-Men comics of recent have showed emails on pages to between certain characters to reveal secrets and stuff. But no, this is basically a log that Mr. Sinister has started called The Red Diamond, Immortal Sinister Secrets. Now, each secret, there's 13 secrets, and each secret is talking about each issue. So, number 1, scandal, which certain young lady is keeping private company with Mr. Sinister. Now, that means, basically, when Destiny whispered in his ear, killed him. So, that's what that means. And basically, that's all for the issue. And we see that Mr. Sinister is going to shoot, Moira McTaggart, but doesn't want to use up a life fighting this kaiju. And that leads us into issue 2. Now, for issue 2, we have basically the Quiet Council and all of Krakoa is fighting this giant kaiju because it's giant. And there's not much in this issue. It's a big step down from the last issue, which is one of my favorite comics I've ever read. But really, it's just all of Krakoa fighting this kaiju. Mr. Sinister injects himself with a bunch of mutants' DNA. He becomes this hulking monster that's just as big as the kaiju, wrestles it, explodes it, and turns back to his regular self. And what's really important is the end of this, where after they defeat Selene, which is really cool how they defeat her, she Hope has a sniper magic, turns a portal, because that's her powers. She uses her scope, shoots Selene, and then goes through a portal back to Krakoa. It's really cool. But what's really important is the end of this book, where Destiny falls to the ground, basically looking like she's having a seizure, but what she says is, You're a ghost, you're a ghost, you're a ghost. The phrase that keeps repeating in this series. Now that moves us on to issue 3. Now in this issue, it starts out a little bit, soft, but then it gets really, really good. It ends strong. So it's basically a rehash of how she met Mystique, who is, as some of you know, is her partner, and how she got her powers. So she was horseback riding one day, because she comes from the 1800s, and she just gets a vision of everything up to Krakoa. She gets a vision of Days of Future Past. She gets a vision of Dark Phoenix, Krakoa, the formation of the Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, the Shadow King, the formation of the X-Men, and yeah. So she goes blind when this happens, and she writes everything she sees in a journal. And now she's just in bed, just really just curled up in a ball, and just still ensuing the seizure. And as Emma Frost tries to see what's in, since she's such a powerful telepath, she tries to see what's happening, but she ultimately can't. So there's a rehashing of how Destiny and Mystique met. And then Mr. Sinister reveals something, since he's been through so many pasts and presents, and with all the Morris stuff, he knows a lot of stuff. He knows a lot of people's secrets. So he's basically like, hey, Mystique, remind me again about how you resurrected Destiny without anyone's permission, because you need permission and stuff. And she denies the allegations, stuff like that. But what's really important is right here. Destiny has a second vision, which hasn't happened since the 1800s. And what she sees may not come true, like the Days of Future Past timeline didn't come true. But what she sees here, it's just honestly crazy. So Krakoa's burning down. Then you see kind of like a robot statue of Apocalypse, Magneto, and Sentinels on the same head, kind of like that one guy from Transformers. I don't know, I might have a picture here, but I don't know his name. Then Judgment Day, and then what seems like this Sins of Sinister event. We see people reaching their hands out, praising Exodus. We have what seems to be another Dark Phoenix, so that's a little bit scary. And then we have Magic standing over a bunch of dead X-Men, so that's fun. But that is where we see and are introduced to all these different timelines that could happen. Now we know with hindsight which of these timelines are going to happen. So it starts with Judgment Day, and it goes to what Empire of the Red Diamond, which I assume is referring to Sins of Sinister. And what this timeline ends at, or as far as she can see into this timeline, is the Storm System. Now, we don't know what that is. I think it might be something about how Storm is the region of Araco, which is the capital of the Sol System. It's very confusing. You don't need to worry about it. But yeah, I think it's kind of referring to that. But this just unlocks so many possibilities of the future of X-Men. And we even see into one of those possibilities where it's like a Dark Phoenix version of Exodus killing Mr. Sinister and just kind of eating him, just normal behavior. And Destiny basically wakes up from this, goes to the Quiet Council, and basically tells them a war is coming, which is referring to Judgment Day. And basically all of them are questioning it, and at the end of the issue, we see that Destiny basically says, I saw a bunch of futures. Some of them may not come true, but in every single future, one thing was the same. I didn't see Mystique in any of them. So Mystique's gonna die. So any Mystique fans out there, sorry to tell you this, but Mystique's gonna die. So next we have number 4. So this issue does actually have a new artist. It's Michael Bandini, and I thought I should mention that this issue is a little bit not as important. It's basically the fallout of the Hellfire Gala and leading up to Judgment Day. Emma Frost, basically, long story short, Emma Frost got doused in, I think that's how you say it, doused in blood, because Mutant's resurrection secret was revealed, and people don't like that, so someone just threw blood on her. I think it's like sheep's blood or something. But then Emma Frost goes to the Quiet Council, and she reveals something that we need a whole segment for. So, cue the clips. We need a whole segment for this. Oh, hi. Didn't see you there. You want me to explain what Mr. Sinister has been doing? Well, you've come to the right place. The thing with Mr. Sinister right now is that it's complicated. What Emma Frost reveals to the Quiet Council is basically that Dr. Stasis, the X-Men villain, has been unmasked and has been revealed to be Mr. Sinister with a club on his forehead. Yep, a club on his forehead. And if you don't know, there's a red diamond on the regular Mr. Sinister's forehead, so you can only assume there's gonna be more. Which there is. In X-Men Red, Orbis Stellaris was revealed to have a red heart on, a black spade on its forehead, and it ends up being a Mr. Sinister. And in Legion of X, that one girl that I forget the name of, it should be up here, she has a heart on her forehead, and she's a girl version of Mr. Sinister. We don't know what this means yet until Sins of Sinister, so yeah, just thought I should tell you guys that. So yeah, hope you like that little explanation. So after she explains that, all the Quiet Council members look at Mr. Sinister and they're like, "Did you know about this?" And he's like, and starts to run. And before the council is able to catch up with him, he's beamed up into the sky by the Eternals, and that sends us into Judgment Day. Since this is a tie-in issue, not a lot really important happens, so I'm just gonna really, speed run this one. Exodus has some backstory rehashing, and they fight the Eternals and stuff. Yeah. So the next issue 6, is more of some stuff, like basically internal debate with Sebastian Shaw. And he's basically thinking to himself, am I going to be judged by the Celestial? Am I going to be judged as passing or not? And Destiny fails the test. And Emma fails, some other people fail, and ultimately Sebastian Shaw fails. And this is where he meets Mother Righteous, who is the girl with the heart, the Mr. Sinister clone. And he, basically, it's the end of the world, sits down and has a whiskey with her, and basically does business agreements and stuff. So does he know that she's a Mr. Sinister clone? We don't know that. But yeah, that's issue 6. So these tie-ins are really easy to get through. Until issue 7. This issue is basically when Judgment Day is really at its end, when the poop hit the fan. And it's basically Nightcrawler saving everybody, saving a lot of people, and putting in the motions of how the finale can work. So there's really not much in the tie-ins that contribute to the bigger story, but issue 8 makes up for it. This issue is crazy. So what basically happens in here, I'm going to try to make this at least confusing and fastest as possible so that you all can just understand it. Mystique infiltrates this base that Destiny is working at, and it's a military base that is experimenting on mutants. And you may be asking, why is Destiny working at a base where mutants are being experimented on? Well, keep your friends close and keep your enemies closer. The person who is running the base is Mr. Sinister, and he has been experimenting with the following, he has a few important last names jotted down in his database and stuff. So the last names are Shaw, who is referring to Sebastian Shaw; Sullivan, who is theorized to be referring to a guy from an old 90s comics. In the comments, tell me how if you want me to cover that 90s comic, or if the comments are turned off, I'll post a poll. Xavier, Marco, and we all know who Xavier's referring to, and Marco is referring to Juggernaut. He's not a mutant, but I don't know, maybe some retcon or something. And Riking, which is a guy that I forget. So, what do you expect? I forget a lot of stuff. And basically, we get a flashback to 1845, where Mystique and Destiny are basically... Mystique's basically Sherlock Holmes in this. Alright, Mystique is Sherlock Holmes. And they're discovering a murder. And this is when they first meet Mr. Sinister. And Mr. Sinister is just Nathaniel Essex at this time. And he's basically very weak. And long story short, this monster is... At night, Nathaniel Essex turns into basically Mr. Sinister. He has the red diamond on his forehead at night, and he turns into him, and he's going around murdering people because Mr. Sinister's a psychopath. And they basically put him in jail, but when he's in jail, he's basically shape-coded, and he's saying, I didn't do it, and then he stares at something, and he says, red and black, red and black, red and black, red and black. And then he starts saying, you're a ghost, you're a ghost, you're a ghost. And they find him dead the next morning. So that is basically... I'm assuming it's going to be revealed in Sins of Sinister, because I have no idea what is happening in this issue. But when they go down to the basement of Nathaniel Essex, you can find test tubes, or kind of cloning vans, that's what they're called, that has a diamond on it, a club, a spade, and a heart. Now, as the other guy, the Mr. Sinister expert had explained to you earlier, we all have this revealed. Who's who? So, that's just a mystery. It's weird, alright? I can't really, explain it to you because it hasn't been explained to us, really. So, on to number 9, where we do get a little bit of so in this issue, it's after Judgment Day, and You know how the Quiet Council was chasing after Mr. Sinister? It was interrupted by Judgment Day. Now they're back after him. They're trying to brainstorm how to go after him, and Mr. Sinister comes in and he shoots Professor Xavier, but then he dies, and we are revealed that he has been trying to kill the entirety of the Quiet Council. And throughout this issue, he keeps shooting the Moira, resetting the timeline, doing all of that, trying to kill the Quiet Council in various ways. And eventually, just the last time, he tries like 9 different times, I'm pretty sure. And eventually, they kill him on like one of the last times. And all the Quiet Council get together and is like, let's see what's going on, because this is crazy. Why is he trying to kill us? Which moves us into our last issue, number 10. Well, Mr. Sinister killed some of the Quiet Council. He killed Emma and Xavier and some others. And Hope. But they're able to resurrect them. Without Hope, they still had some eggs left, and they had some stand-ins with, like, Sync. And what they end up doing, everybody assembles to basically just get Mr. Sinister. So we have the X-Men. We have Storm. We have the entire Quiet Council. We have everybody, all the heavy hitters, coming into Mr. Sinister's little base, or big base. It's a very big base. And they're basically just storming, and they punch him, they knock him out, and they bring him to the Quiet Council to be judged, and they make their judgment. They throw him into the pit, which, if you don't know, it's basically like a jail for them, but it's like a jail you can't see anything, and all of a sudden, Nightcrawler has horns, so that's interesting. And at the end of the issue, Professor Xavier takes off his helmet, and what do you know? There's a red diamond on his forehead, just like Mr. Sinister. Which leads us to believe that all the names that we list off earlier have been possessed by Mr. Sinister. We don't even know how long this has been since he's been infected by Mr. Sinister. But just to let you guys know, I will be doing shorts reviewing every single Sins of Sinister comic, and if you like the video, like and subscribe. I'll also be doing, at the end of Sins of Sinister, I'll be doing an explained, kind of like this, of the whole series. Remember the question I asked earlier? Leave your answer in the comments below. If not, I'll start a poll about it. And other than that, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.